Hey, what's up everybody, cmdrradix here bringing you another video. We are on a roll recently, let me tell you. But today, we are going to be continuing our monthly series that comes out once a year, Community Comments. If you don't know, Community Comments is the series where I look at your comments, look at your questions, and I answer them. Yeah, it's a Q&A. So with that being said, I have all the questions from last year's community comments, and I'm going to be answering them. Ideally, this is a monthly series, although it doesn't often turn out that way. But if you have any questions for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. We have a small community here at cmdrradix, so I will have an opportunity to answer all of your questions. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's community comments. From Move Him Again X10. So, I just watched the Transformers 1 movie, and I can't remember much of the cartoons I watched as a kid. How much did they stay true to the original storyline? I have a hard time watching movies nowadays because I can see the underlying propaganda and subliminal magical agenda of Hollywood. This movie really has a positive message, and I saw parallels to the biblical truth of what's going on in the spirit. The Transformers movies were terrible with propaganda, but this film seems to be pushing more towards the truth of what the saints should be doing to fight Satan's rule over Earth. I wonder, though, if it's meant to stir up the working class to overthrow the ruling class, which may lead to another January 6th incident. As a spiritually minded person, what is your take on this film, and can you draw a spiritual message from it? There's a lot to unpack here. There are a lot of assumptions, I think, that are being made behind this comment that I might not necessarily agree with. I might not necessarily agree with some of the conclusions in the assumptions behind this comment. I might not agree with some of the premises behind this comment. How in depth do I address this? Alright, let's take this piece by piece here. So I just watched the Transformers 1 movie, and I can't remember... Oh, I'll start with the first point. First thing I can say is, the last community comments episode, I said I wasn't going to watch Transformers 1, if I recall correctly. So to answer the actual core of your comment, at the very end here, what is your take on this film? I didn't watch it. Let's try. Maybe it'll be interesting. So I just watched the Transformers 1 movie, and I can't remember much of the cartoons I watched as a kid. How much did they stay true to the original storyline? That's not how Transformers works. It's another iteration of Transformers. There is no storyline to stay true to. It doesn't work like a canon type thing. I have a hard time watching movies nowadays because I can see the underlying propaganda and subliminal magical agenda of Hollywood. We probably have two very different definitions of magic. I would say subliminal agenda, subliminal messaging of... Sometimes Hollywood's not even subliminal about it. It's just the messaging. It's just the point of the story of Hollywood films. This movie really has a positive message, and I saw parallels to the biblical truth of what's going on in the spirit. What's going on in the spirit? What does that... Biblical truth? I'll get the elephant in the room out of the way first. Some of the language in this comment sounds to me to be slightly from an evangelical Christian background. I am not an evangelical. As a spiritually minded person, I don't think I would call myself a spiritually minded person, because what spirit are we talking about here? I see myself as someone interested in symbolism, in phenomenology, in the symbolic world, right? So I don't really draw spiritual messages, I don't even know what that is, from stories, but there are symbolic and phenomenological meanings in all forms of stories, whether intentional or unintentional. The Transformers movies were terrible with propaganda. I don't know about you, but Michael Bay made me love the United States military. So I think they did a good job with propaganda. I don't know if you mean that they had propaganda in it and therefore are terrible, which I don't necessarily agree with, but this film seems to be pushing more towards the truth of what the saints should be doing to fight Satan's rule over the earth. I don't think Satan rules over the earth. I think Christ is king. I wonder, though, if it's meant to stir up the working class to overthrow the ruling class. Okay, that's essentially Marxism. So are we wondering if there's a Marxist meaning behind Transformers 1? I wouldn't put it past it. Which may lead to another January 6th incident, which is weird because you're interpreting January 6th through a Marxist framework, which is wild to me. Also trying to suggest January 6th was something that Hollywood wanted to happen, and I don't agree with that premise. Right, as a spiritually minded person, I wouldn't call myself that. What is your take on the film? And I didn't watch it, and can you draw a spiritual message from it? I don't know what a spiritual message is. Hypriz the Failure says, question Radix, do you roll out? I try my best, man. I've been trying my best for years. Matthew Flynn the Gladiator 6786 asks, I want to ask a dumb question as a joke, but I think I'll leave that for another time, so instead I'll ask about Warhammer 40k. What part of the hobby interests you, if it still does interest you? Great question. Yeah, I think I might have mentioned before, maybe in a stream or maybe in the last community comments video, that I kind of have a passing interest in Warhammer 40k. I haven't really dived into it. But what interests me about Warhammer 40k is the world, the lore. You guys know me. You know I'm a lore guy. You know that I like big worlds. I like worlds that you can immerse yourself in. I want worlds that fulfill what Tolkien called escape, that can fulfill that, right? So that's why I was big into Transformers when it had lore. It doesn't have lore anymore, but it's why I like Star Wars. It's why I like it's why I love the Elder Scrolls. And Warhammer 40k seems to have a deep timeline, a deep world filled with lore. So I'm not actually interested in like the model part of Warhammer 40k. I'm not really interested in the actual game part of Warhammer 40k, but I am interested in learning more about the world, the fiction, things like that. I just have no idea where to start. It looks like a very big fictional universe. Shockwave2617 asks, views on Jay Dyer. Alright. Jay Dyer. The first thing I can say about Jay Dyer is that he is my brother in Christ. He is my brother in the Orthodox Church. I will be a little bit gay. I will be a little bit... What's a better word than gay? Oh, my battery's dying. Hold on. Alright, so my camera died. Here we are back in this this perspective, back on the webcam camera, which is going to be bad because my camera is 60 FPS and this camera is 30 FPS, so we'll see how that goes. But the question was, what are my views on Jay Dyer? So I will say that I do have some hang-ups with the way he can deliver information, the way he engages with people. To some extent I understand, but to another extent he's a little bit more on fire than I would prefer. I will say that Jay Dyer has provided a very, very important thing to the building up of my philosophical background, and that is his focus on epistemology. Jay Dyer's framework with dealing with epistemology has been his approach to philosophy, his approach to epistemology, I think is really well done. I greatly commend him for that. Now, if someone is interested in orthodoxy and wants me to recommend some channels or whatever, first, I don't think that's the best way to go about it. Talk to your priest, talk to your local Orthodox priest, but he probably won't show up on my list of people to recommend. But we're of the same church, we're brothers. Ultra Sprinkle asks, I always wanted to ask this question because I never could find it anywhere. But before the shrouding, in Shattered Glass, was Primus and Unicron their original incarnations, Order and Evil respectively? I know afterwards Unicron became good, or something I don't really recall correctly. Well, see, this is a Transformers lore question. We have a different series for answering Transformers lore questions. I feel like I mentioned this in every single community comments video. This is not a series for Transformers lore questions. but I'll answer it anyway since I don't know when the next Transformers More lore will be. Primus and Unicron before the Shroud were themselves. Unicron was bad, Primus was good. It was the Shroud that sort of splintered them apart, and now there's an evil Primus and a good Unicron that are not connected to the multiversal singular characters anymore, because the multiverse doesn't really exist anymore. And then we have a bunch of questions from @TFEES. I don't even know if this guy watches this channel anymore, but I will answer all of these. Sure, why not? Can you listen to the English dubs of Attack on Titan and Dragon Ball Z Kia and tell me your thoughts on them? I've listened to Attack on Titan's dub. Not a big fan of Attack on Titan's dub. I haven't listened to the Dragon Ball Z Kia dub. I guess I have to listen to the Dragon Ball Z Kia dub. And that might have been a misspell. I think it's Kai.
Well, to be perfectly honest, you guys, he was a lot more intimidating than I expected him to be.
I think it's best you go back into the hyperbolic time chamber to train. There's time.
Hyperbolic time chamber. As someone who has never watched Dragon Ball, this is wild to me. Yeah, it sounds like an English dub. That's how I would put it. It wouldn't be my preferred choice. What are some scrapped videos of yours? Oh man, so many. Let's see, I had a plan for making a big, movie-length approach to Transformers lore. That was sort of talked about Transformers lore from the Big Bang till whenever, possibly the entire story, that I wrote several scripts for and then never finished. And then I even got a voice actor to voice act part of it and play the role of Alpha Trion or Vector Prime or someone. But then that didn't really go through. I guess I've technically scrapped Commander Radix's American History because I've just started the reboot on that. Check out How the English Reformation Started America for that. I have a whole script for a video titled How Napoleon Affected the American Civil War, but I never made that into a video. I mean, symbolism of Transformers isn't scrapped, but I haven't edited it in a long time. I do have the next episode recorded, I just haven't edited it. Same with the Minecraft Let's Play with the Lazy Koalas. Those files still exist on my hard drive waiting to be edited, but it's so hard to edit, 7 or 8 cameras in a Minecraft Let's Play? It can take a month to put that all together. A lot of my products I don't necessarily think of as scrapped, and more of, oh, I got bored working on this, let's stick it on the side burner, and then I don't touch it in 5 years. But like this community comments episode, I think this is a year or half a year old. No, it's definitely over a year. The last episode came out in July of 2024, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's been a long time, but community comments hasn't been scrapped. It's just been waiting for the right moment to strike. I was working on a series because I always end up having an idea that I start to turn into a series and then get overwhelmed and stop. I was working on a series that was going to be about the life of Saint Cuthbert that I didn't axe, but I've pretty much given up working on that one because that got out of hand. I was also working on a really big series about Anglo-Saxon Britain. I was also working on a really big series about Buddhism. A lot of my scrapped ideas are really big series that I give up on. The Radius Saga, my Skyrim Let's Play, right? I didn't really continue on with that. I did eventually start playing that character without recording, and then it sort of, we're out of bounds now. We can't really go back to that series. I'm not ruling out the possibility of a future third Skyrim Let's Play, though. Yeah, most of my scrapped videos are really videos I got bored working on. And technically I'm not willing to say that they've been scrapped yet. Can you do more history meme videos? Yeah. How does it feel to be a little famous? I'm not. I am not even at the peak of my popularity. 2017, 2018 Commander Radix, it wouldn't be unusual to see me being brought up on Reddit, on TFW 2005, Sabertron.com, brought up on other people's YouTube channels. I was more popular back in the late 2010s, and now this channel is kind of floating, mostly because of my shift in content, my shift in lifestyles, because I was a college student and could spend more time working on videos. I was a liberal arts major. This is not a STEM major, so that explains that. But now I am working. I have a full-time job. I don't have enough time to make as much videos as I used to. I need to be moving on from Transformers, and that's why there's a shift to history and all that. Which has a larger room for growth, but also like it's a bigger pond than the Transformers online community is, so I don't get noticed as much anymore. So I actually wouldn't say I'm a little famous. I think my fame has gone away from the 2010s, which I'm fine with, actually. Granted, it's not as fun. It was funner when we had a more engaging community. It was great to have a community. Go on my Discord and someone would always be messaging something to me. Checking out my comment section, there would always be comments, and maybe 25% of them were going to be positive. That was fun, but there was also a lot of negatives that came with that. I'm fine both in I'm not getting hate mail the way that I used to be getting, and I'm also fine with the logic of why I'm not as big as I used to be. If you could make a stand-alone Transformers movie that would never get a sequel, what would you make it about? That's an interesting question, because a video I've always wanted to make is how would I make a Hasbro cinematic universe, which is still on my video idea list. It's been on my video idea list since 2017, and I still haven't done it yet. You might be... Here's another look behind the curtain. My video idea list has things I wrote down in 2017 that I still intend to get to eventually one day. It's kind of fun to think about. At no point in my mind, again, this goes back to what I mentioned a few videos ago, that I don't experience time correctly. I still feel like barely any time has passed since 2017 as far as the cmdrradix sphere is concerned. So I feel like I wrote down that idea yesterday. But if I could make a Transformers standalone movie that would never get a sequel, well, I would make it stay true to the core of the Transformers franchise. It would be set on Earth, and there would be humans. Cry about it. It would involve the good Autobots and the evil Decepticons, and the defeating of the Decepticons through perseverance, hard work, strategy, and cooperation. And it would end with peace and a merging of Earth and Cybertronian societies in some way, shape, or form. When was the last time you collabed with other YouTuber? That was a long, long time ago. I will say that I do have a collab with I guess you could say, Substacker that's been sitting on my hard drive for 2 years now that I haven't edited. That's the next episode of The Symbolism of Transformers. The last collaboration on this channel was Minecraft Survival Hardcore Episode 2. That released 3 years ago, and I still technically have the other episodes unedited on my hard drive. Although, to be fair, that came out 3 years ago, but that was probably recorded 2 years before that. I'm not really part of a community anymore. The Lazy Koalas don't do videos anymore. I still love the Lazy Koalas. I still talk to them every now and then, not as much as I'd like to, part of being in a completely different hemisphere of the planet, but I still consider the Lazy Koalas a thing, just not a very active thing. And besides that, I'm not really part of any real active community. I'm not active enough on my own channel to really be an active member of any community. If anyone in the history sphere, or the philosophy sphere, or the traditional Christian sphere wants to hit me up, let me know. My DMs are open. If anyone wants to start a podcast with a guy in a completely different time zone. Although there was another collab I did with, I think keeps changing his name, TFEES. I did a collab with him, but I don't know if that's still up. I think he might have deleted it. I don't know if this guy's still watching the channel anymore. What happened to that Orbital Bacon collab? Yeah, he didn't get back to me. Hold on, let me pull up my... The problem with Orbital Bacon is that not long after we were starting to prepare a collaboration, he entered an online war. Yeah, I gave Orbital Bacon some lines to record for my Clovis episode, and then he didn't get back to me, which is fair. He's a busy guy, but he just didn't get back to me with the lines. Am I evil for telling people to watch my IDW comics dub, which get better with each new release, instead of reading the actual comic? No. Do you read manga? Not often. Not often. A little bit, maybe a little bit every 3 years, but I'm not an avid manga reader. I do actually read American comics probably a bit more. I read Batman comics every now and then. I need to get back to reading the Skybound, Hasbro, or Energon Universe books at some point. Is One Piece overrated? I haven't seen One Piece. I haven't read One Piece. Although One Piece doesn't really look like the type of thing I'm usually interested in. Okay, and with that, that is all of our comments that were left on the last episode of Community Comments, and that makes this our latest installation in Community Comments episode 19. And thank you so much for your comments, your questions. It was really fun answering them. These are some of my favorite videos to make because I get to talk about myself narcissistically. If you have any questions or comments or whatever for me, please leave them in the comment section below. I will address them in the next episode of Community Comments. So please leave some comments below for the next episode for any questions you have. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe to this channel if you have not yet. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. Follow me on social media. All the links are in the description. And have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.